Few war films have ever conveyed the raw intensity and haunting realism of Platoon. Drawn from Oliver Stone's personal experiences on the battlefield, the film set aside Hollywood polish to portray the chaos, fatigue, and moral challenges of the Vietnam War. On set, the cast faced harsh conditions, improvised survival, and moments so vivid that the line between acting and real-life experience often disappeared. These 25 insights reveal the hidden hardships, creative risks, and enduring influence of the movie that reshaped the way audiences view war on screen. Number 1. Oliver Stone's own combat experiences. The emotional power of Platoon stemmed from lived reality, not just imagination. Before his career as a filmmaker, Oliver Stone served as an infantryman in the U.S. Army in Vietnam from 1967 to 1968. He fought with the 25th Infantry Division and later the 1st Cavalry Division, experiencing combat on the front lines. Stone was wounded twice, receiving a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. These experiences left lasting impressions of fear, exhaustion, and survival, which shaped his storytelling. The characters Sergeant Elias and Sergeant Barnes were modeled after real men he served alongside, one protective, the other imposing and cold. Writing Platoon became a way for Stone to confront his own wartime trauma. He began the script in 1971, just a few years after returning home. The result was more than a war movie, it was a personal confession blending cinema with first-hand testimony. Every battle scene and anxious glance carried echoes of his own experiences, creating an authenticity no fictional story could match. Number 2. Sending the script to Jim Morrison. Before Platoon reached production, the script had an unusual journey. In 1971, Stone drafted an early version while still grappling with his memories of war, believing it needed a voice both intense and poetic. He sent it directly to Jim Morrison, lead singer of The Doors, hoping Morrison would play Chris Taylor. Morrison never replied and passed away shortly after in Paris, leaving the script without a champion. 4 years, it sat largely ignored by Hollywood, dismissed by studios. This early setback could have ended the project, but Stone persisted. The Morrison connection became a footnote in the film's history, showing how close it came to disappearing. Ironically, The Doors' music later appeared in Stone's films, symbolically linking the singer he had hoped would star with his later work. Number 3. Nearly a decade of studio rejections. The path from script to screen was fraught with difficulty. For almost 10 years, Stone struggled to convince studios to produce Platoon. Executives worried audiences were unprepared for a war film that rejected typical action-driven narratives. Hollywood at the time favored stylized portrayals with clear-cut heroes and patriotic themes, making Stone's raw depiction a risky investment. Many studios rejected the script as too dark and commercially unviable, some suggesting he rewrite it in the style of the 1980s Vietnam action thrillers, where the conflict served as a backdrop for heroics. Stone refused to compromise, determined to convey the confusion and disorder exactly as he remembered it. This decade-long resistance became a defining test. By sticking to his vision, he ensured that when Platoon eventually released, its honesty was palpable. Waiting also allowed the film to arrive at a moment when audiences were ready to confront the darker realities of war. Number 4. A $6 million risk. When financing finally came through, it was from Hemdale, a small independent company willing to take chances. The budget was just $6 million, far less than most war films of the 1980s. Every dollar had to be carefully managed, requiring improvisation with real locations and natural lighting instead of expensive sets. Stone adapted by trimming scenes, filming with handheld cameras, and using the Philippine jungle as both backdrop and challenge. Many sequences were shot guerrilla style with minimal rehearsal or staging, relying on practical explosions and timed pyrotechnics instead of costly special effects. What initially seemed like a limitation became a strength. The stripped-down production gave Platoon a raw, immediate texture that no large-budget polish could match. This gamble transformed a low-cost, high-risk project into one of the most acclaimed war films ever made. Number 5. Denied Pentagon support. Stone's request for military assistance was rejected. The Pentagon deemed the script unflattering to American forces. Unlike other productions, he was denied access to helicopters, uniforms, and bases. This forced creative solutions, including sourcing military equipment from the Philippine Army and piecing together authentic uniforms. Even helicopters, a prominent visual element, had to be borrowed elsewhere. In hindsight, the lack of official support proved beneficial. Free from military oversight, Platoon could depict the chaos, tension, and moral ambiguity of war without compromise, enhancing its reputation for independence and realism. Number 6. Filming during revolution. While shooting in the Philippine jungle, the country was in upheaval. The production coincided with the 1986 revolution that ended Ferdinand Marcos's long rule. Streets in Manila filled with tanks and soldiers, creating a tense backdrop for cast and crew. Despite the unrest, Stone continued filming, staging jungle firefights while distant gunfire sometimes echoed nearby. The line between fiction and reality blurred, intensifying the shoot and reminding actors that danger wasn't just scripted. For performers, the political turmoil underscored the weight of their roles. Immersed in staged combat amid real upheaval, their portrayals gained a raw authenticity impossible to fake on a soundstage. Number 7. Boot Camp from Hell. To prepare actors for combat realism, Stone enlisted Vietnam veteran Dale Dye to lead a 2-week intensive boot camp. Cast members were treated as recruits, not stars. They dug foxholes, lived on rations, and endured surprise night ambushes in the sweltering jungle. Sleep was scarce, discomfort constant, and Dye ensured the actors experienced a fraction of soldiers' hardships in Vietnam. The training was so intense that some nearly quit. Charlie Sheen, for instance, was deliberately confused and isolated to mirror his character's disorientation. By filming time, the actors were not just performing, they had lived the exhaustion, grime, and bonds formed under duress. The boot camp blurred the line between role and actor, giving Platoon its visceral authenticity. Number 8. Dale Dye's cameo. Dye, who trained the cast, also appeared on screen as Captain Harris, a strict officer whose brief appearances added realism. For actors, seeing their trainer become a character was surreal. Dye also supervised performances, ensuring weapon handling, combat tactics, and squad movement were accurate. His expertise prevented Hollywood shortcuts. Stone later admitted that without Dye, battle scenes would not have been as credible. The cameo represented Dye's overarching influence, guaranteeing Platoon captured the discipline and grit of real soldiers. Number 9. Filmed chronologically. Unlike most movies, Platoon was shot in sequence, reflecting the soldiers' emotional journey. As filming progressed, cast members grew increasingly exhausted and disheveled, paralleling their characters. This technique meant that their weariness was genuine, not simulated. By the final battle scenes, the fatigue visible on their faces came from weeks of harsh jungle conditions. The chronological approach added an authenticity viewers could feel, allowing audiences to witness the cast's transformation alongside the story. This risk paid off, setting Platoon apart from other war films. Number 10. Borrowed gear from the Philippine military. With no Pentagon support, Stone secured military resources from the Philippine Army, including Huey helicopters, vehicles, and soldiers to portray American troops. This collaboration lent scale and authenticity otherwise impossible on a limited budget. The helicopters were actual combat models, adding chilling realism to battle scenes. By relying on the Philippine Army, Stone turned a potential obstacle into one of the film's strengths, demonstrating how resourcefulness elevated Platoon from low-budget risk to a war epic with striking credibility. Number 11. Real jungle challenges. The Philippine jungle itself became a formidable element of production. Cast and crew endured heat, humidity, insects, infections, and exhaustion. Forrest Whitaker injured his hand on barbed wire, and Johnny Depp nearly collapsed from fever. These struggles tested the actors' endurance, enhancing the believability of their performances. When viewers see soldiers swatting bugs, sweating, or wading through mud, they witness reality rather than acting. Number 12. Helmet graffiti. The soldiers' helmets were personalized with slogans, drawings, and markings, reflecting real Vietnam soldiers' practices. Johnny Depp, for example, wrote Cherilyn for his girlfriend at the time, Cherilyn Fenn. Other actors added phrases and doodles expressing their characters' personalities. These small details enhanced authenticity, making helmets extensions of identity rather than mere props, reminding audiences that the characters represented real young men in war. Number 13. The rain shaped the film's visual style. Unpredictable tropical storms in the Philippine jungle often disrupted the filming schedule, forcing Oliver Stone and his crew to adapt on the spot. What could have been a production nightmare became an unexpected creative asset, defining Platoon's look. Instead of pausing scenes or waiting for clear skies, Stone embraced the chaos. Actors were filmed slogging through thick mud, struggling under heavy rain, and battling across waterlogged terrain. The downpours intensified the sense of exhaustion and despair, turning each firefight into a raw, unforgiving ordeal. These weather challenges created a documentary-like realism that no amount of planning could replicate. The gritty, rain-soaked imagery not only reflected the unpredictability of combat, but also drew audiences directly into the soldiers' experience. Number 14. The opening ambush drew directly from Stone's own trauma. The film's intense first firefight wasn't purely fictional. It was based on his experiences as a young infantryman in Vietnam, when he survived a sudden ambush that left him wounded in both his neck and foot. This memory shaped the authenticity of the opening scenes. Charlie Sheen's disoriented performance was deliberate, with Stone instructing him to appear lost, confused, and overwhelmed, mirroring the shock and panic he had personally endured. This choice added a deeply personal layer to Chris Taylor's character, turning Stone's trauma into cinematic storytelling. Audiences witnessed more than a scripted firefight. They were seeing a reflection of real combat filtered through someone who had truly lived it. Number 15. Elias's death captured in one take. One of the most haunting images in Platoon is Sergeant Elias running through the jungle, arms outstretched, helicopters overhead. That iconic scene was filmed in a single take, with explosions, helicopters, and squibs perfectly timed to Willem Dafoe's movements. Dafoe fully committed, sprinting through the chaos without hesitation. His instinctive gesture of lifting his arms created an almost biblical image, now one of cinema's most memorable frames. Filming it only once gave the moment an unrepeatable energy. Instead of rehearsed precision, viewers saw raw desperation and tragic beauty, cementing Elias's death in film history. Number 16. Musical anachronism. A subtle but notable detail in Platoon comes from the background music during a key scene. Soldiers are shown listening to Merle Haggard's Okie from Muskogee, a song released in 1969, even though the film is set in 1967. Stone intentionally chose the track, prioritizing cultural impact over historical accuracy. The song represented the era's divided views on patriotism and counterculture, helping audiences instantly connect with the period's mood. This choice illustrates how filmmakers balance historical precision with emotional truth. While the timeline is slightly off, the music perfectly evokes the feeling of the era, reminding viewers that war films rely on memory and atmosphere as much as dates. Number 17. Elio Estevez was originally considered. Casting Chris Taylor could have gone differently. Before Charlie Sheen was selected, Stone wanted Elio Estevez, Sheen's older brother, for the role. Production delays forced Estevez to step down, leaving the part open. This allowed Charlie Sheen to take on the role, and his intense, vulnerable performance became a defining moment in his career. The twist of fate gave the film one of its most iconic elements. Had Estevez played Taylor, the emotional tone and energy might have been completely different, showing how chance often shapes the final version of a classic movie. Number 18. Other stars who declined. Several prominent actors were considered for Platoon but turned it down, including Keanu Reeves, Mickey Rourke, Kevin Costner, and William Peterson. Reasons ranged from concerns about the story's heavy tone to personal ties to the Vietnam War. Costner reportedly worried about the film's impact on his brother, a Vietnam veteran, while Reeves, early in his career, felt the violence was not suitable. Imagining the movie with any of them highlights how the casting ultimately shaped breakout performances from Charlie Sheen, Willem Dafoe, and Tom Berenger, who made the film unforgettable. Number 19. Stone's cameo in battle. Oliver Stone left a personal mark on the film not only as director and writer, but also with a brief on-screen appearance. During the climactic firefight, he appears as a battalion commander leading troops amid chaos. Though easy to miss, The cameo had deep meaning for Stone, reconnecting him with his battlefield experiences. It wasn't about recognition, but about authenticity, placing himself into the world he was recreating. This subtle inclusion underscores how personal Platoon was. It was Stone's war story as much as it was a cinematic one, blurring lines between director, soldier, and survivor. Number 20. Stone shocked by the film's success. When Platoon was released, Stone was astonished by the response. After years of studio rejection, he watched lines forming outside theaters nationwide. The experience was surreal for a filmmaker who had struggled 15 years to bring the story to life. He even drove past cinemas just to see the crowds. What was once considered too risky became a cultural event. Audiences discussed it, critics debated it, and the deeply personal story resonated widely. For Stone, it confirmed that personal memories could connect universally. Number 21. Box office triumph. Platoon's commercial success matched its critical acclaim. Made on a modest $6 million budget, it grossed over $138 million worldwide. In the US, it was the third highest grossing film of 1986, behind Top Gun and Crocodile Dundee.